What's up, everyone? This is Peter Moeller here, and the name of this discussion is called Taino, Debunking an Old Myth. So with this short presentation, we're going to be using the backdrop of the article by George Estevez, Rene Perez, and Marquise Joseph, origin of the word Taino, and just discussing the context of that word, along with adding some more input, which was initially started from that paper, and just bringing the obscurity of this topic into full swing. So in this presentation, we're going to be examining and reviewing the context of the word Taino and the ups and downs of its use, as a classification, and how it was used to classify people before the colonial period, and the ongoing investigations and looking into or making sense of the ambiguity of the word. So with that being said, we're going to get into the topic. But the first thing I want to do is, I'm going to point through some of the references in this presentation, which is going to be pretty important, so that way you, the researcher and the student and the casual viewer, can look into further yourself. So aside from the article Origins of the Word Taino, the book Languages of the Pre-Columbian Antilles by Julian Granberry and Gary S. Vasilius, the Arawak Language of Guyana by Gorhead, other sources that's important when it comes to cross-referencing and comparing, en el sur dialectos indígenas de Venezuela, that's by B. Tavera Acosta. Also a book in German, which you can see here, Volume 2, Americas Human Brazilians by Carl Friedrich Philipp von Martus. That book is pretty important because for its time, it's one of the earlier books that compares a whole load of Arawak languages, also Tupi-Guarani, and a little bit of mainland Karina, with the languages of the Antilles, Taino, and also Kalinago. So that source is very important because it's one of the earliest sources that compares and contrasts. Another book by Theodore Koch Gunberg, Arawak Spachin Northwest Brazilians, under, okay, that's another important source that's in German. You can only read that online unless you were enrolled in a university. You're able to download the PDF. So like there's some restrictions with that book. It's a book on the Polycore. Also a few versions of the Wanani dictionaries. A book on the Wapishana. Dictionary on the Achawa. Arbia Boko. The Kalinago 1665 dictionary. and a YU app that's called Traductor Wayunaiki. That's pretty good. So all of these themes are good sources that can be used to cross-reference on the Taino, along with having the book by Douglas Taylor, Languages of the West Indies. After that German book that I mentioned earlier, he would be like the next step later on, aside from C.H. de Gohe, that was comparing the languages in the Antilles. That would include Taino, Kalinago, Garifuna, along with the Lokono. So with that being said, we are going to get into this presentation and discuss this topic on the use of the word Taino and making sense of old myths concerning this word. And let us just begin this discussion on language comparison. Okay, so we're going to begin this topic by referencing this first slide here from George Estevez from the article Origins of the Word Taino. And it says here, this paper is intended to shed light on the origins of the words Taino and Nitaino, which have been used respectively to represent the most dominant indigenous group of the Caribbean region during the time of contact, beginning in 1492, and a supposed ruling class in the Taino hierarchy. The target audience of this paper is laymen interested in the subject. That said, we believe that scholars may have also benefited as we raise key questions and observances about the Caribbean and certain Caribbean languages based on our research and interviews with native Arawakan speakers. So with that said, we're going to be reviewing this subject. So historical timeline for Taino and Nitaino, it will begin with Columbus's log, okay? Beginning with his first voyage in 1492. Then later with Dr. Chanka's letter in 1493, Peter Martires de Caldas in 1511, then later with Las Casas Apologetica in 1517, then from Robert Dudley, 1594 through 1595, C.F. Rafinsky in 1836, Goli Toste in 1898, Seven Loven in 1924, and then last but not least, Irving Rose in 1992. So when we look at these guys mentioned, we can see an evolution in how the word Taino and also Nitaino has been applied and used, both through historical antiquity and through scholastic studies. The four phases of the use of the term Taino: the identification of Taino with good men or nobles, Tainos used to define an indigenous grouping, opening of anthropological and archaeological studies, exploration of linguistics to clarify classifications of groupings. Now that's just my emphasis on top of all the others that I just mentioned. C.F. Rafinsky did not invent the name Taino. He was attempting to classify native peoples based on written historical documentation. Rafinsky says that they called themselves Tainos or Watiaos. The early Spanish explorers used mostly sign language and guesswork to communicate with the natives. So with this in mind, the people of this time did not have the data to fully comprehend the speech of the Circum-Caribbean. They only knew it imperfectly. Like we know now that reference to Watiao has to do with a pact or some sort of friendship or bond or binding between two different persons or two different communities. The prefix Tai can be compared among new Arawakan languages as well as Tupi Guarani and other languages that have seemed to broken off. And we can see this with languages, Arawakan languages, and with Guarani, and sometimes with Karina, even Warao. We can see that some words were exchanged, like with the word Naboria. Here again, we see a chronology of the peopling of the Antilles. The one that we're going to pay attention to the most is the 600 to 1000 AD, which would be the Taino and the Carib. During this period, mostly Salvador. Well, after the Salvador, because after 600 will be the Taino. You see the Antilles going through an evolutionary phase where we see the influence of the Taino, but also we see also influences of the Karina, which would give rise later to the Island Carib or the Kalinago. The closest correspondence to Tai in Northern Arawakan languages, from my studies, is the word Idai, blood. That's in Tariana. That's a dialect that is related to Baniwa. Idai, blood. And we can easily see the correspondence with Idai with Tai. Samuel M. Wilson on Taino Society, the historical significance of the Nitainos is not agreed upon. Now, this was written early by Samuel M. Wilson in the early 90s, and it's from the book Hispaniola, Caribbean Chieftains in the Age of Columbus. And I felt that quote flows rather nice with this topic. Christopher Columbus on Nitaino from the log of his first voyage. Sunday, the 23rd of December. I have not been sure up to now whether the word cacique meant king or governor. They also have another word for nobleman, Nitaino. I do not know if it means hidalgo, governor, or judge. And just to piggyback on this, Rene Perez was the first to bring this up. It's a pretty important piece that it shows that the Spaniards at the time, beginning with Columbus's arrival, they made a lot of guesswork with the language, and clearly is the case with the context of the word Taino and Nitaino. You know, they weren't sure what the word really meant. You know, so they were just comparing with what they were accustomed to with their own culture and with regards to life in the Iberian Peninsula. And now we're going to go over the word correspondences. So with the last slide where we saw Columbus mentioning the use of Taino, he wasn't sure of the context. So now we're going to go into the word correspondences, so to try to make sense of everything. So one of the things that comes to mind when it comes to the word Nitaino is that first person N. So we know with Kalinago and Garifuna, they use the N as the first person, meaning I, my. Now, when we studying the languages in the Caribbean, we have examples of both the first person D and the first person N being used. But with this, these studies, we see more examples of the N being used rather than the D. And one of the reasons for this could be is that the New Arawak languages in the Circum Caribbean was better recorded than the Ta Arawak. As Las Casas in the Apologetic History of the Indies, or the Polygentica Historia, I believe that's chapter 120, and you can find that in Jose Juan Aram's translation of the Antiquities of the Indians, where Las Casas makes reference that the Spanish, they weren't interested in really like speaking the language, only like to convey commands to get the things that they desired. So with that being said, that also led to another factor of these relationships of the languages being overlooked, because for one, the classic Taino, it wasn't really studied very well. So what we see is like very sketchy, and some of the definitions, they're questionable. Like one of the most obvious is the word tequeta, okay? And you can see that that was recorded by Peter Martier, but the Kalinago has toqueta. Okay, it's like pointing that there. Okay, so let's get into these comparisons. One of the obvious is Nitaino and Nitaino from the Kalinago 1665 dictionary. You can compare that with Iton, blood, from Araiku. Niton, my blood, and you can see the relationship that it has with the Kalinago, Nitaino. Niton, my blood. We see the word Taino, which by Koli Toste, it was recorded as good. This is just taking the definitions from Dr. Chanka. Nitaino, deputy chief, okay? And that's taken from Las Casas, who copied Columbus's log, okay? Now we see the similarities. Taino by Chanka and Taino by Peter Martier. We see the similarities, just the different phonetics of the spelling. Now here we see the comparisons for the word blood, ira, iti, itao. In Douglas Taylor's book, I believe it was Languages of the West Indies, he has itai as his blood, his relations. We see the word ira, blood, idai, blood, ita, blood, from the Kalinago 1665 dictionary. So with this comparison, you can see that dai means blood / relation. Comparing other Northern Arawakan languages, We see the word day for daughter in Madawa. We also see the word, it was recorded as Nitaino, my daughter. Wapishana has Tatai, mother's brother. Wayu, Daidu, aunt. Daidu, daughter in Manao. Dayu, sister in Kulino. Daida, daughter. Daida, son, male offspring in Warani. Deya, daughter of a man in Warani. Dairanga, stepson, godson in Warani. Nita, my blood, in Kalinago, in Garifuna. And remember that word that I said earlier, Nitai, my daughter, in Madawa. And that corresponds to Nita, my blood, in Kalinago and Garifuna. And also corresponds with the recording by Columbus, Nitaino. And we see the word Nitaino, my blood people, by Ruben Reyes. We see the word Dayono, my comrades, which is used by the Lokono. Dayono Bay, my comrades of the world. Bay, used for groups. You see Jerry Roman, he spoke about this a lot. Dayono Binabate, my friends of the world, let's dance, let's party. Okay, this is from a song from the Lokono. And you can find this on YouTube. I think it's Bi Toda Tokoro. You Are My Flower. That's the name of the song. I think it's from that one. Don't remember exactly. Jerry Roman, he says that Dayono is a Lokono word used commonly in modern songs to express greatness, to express greetings to distant friends. And with that said, that's the end of this short slide. So so we can see with the word comparisons that Taino and Nitaino has to do with relations, my relatives, my family. Like the Garifuna has Niduhenu for my relatives. So closing out, we can see that there's elements in the language studies that has been overlooked because perhaps scholars have not focused enough on language comparisons. We see a lot of advancements in the archaeology and the DNA, but the language part is, in my opinion, has one that's been a little bit in the dark or neglected on, because there hasn't been enough emphasis on studies. So the purpose of a video like this is to generate interest, to make people want to get into these studies and get involved. So closing out, if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you check out that Taino exhibit at the Smithsonian down in Bowling Green in New York City. And also, if you haven't read it yet, read the article Origins of the Word Taino. So this is Peter Moller here, and until the next build, Taino D.